MapInfo helps you see, find, and analyze spatial relationships. So one query that I often use is finding features in one layer that relates to a currently selected feature. So that could be this example where I have a 20-minute drive time zone. That could be a catchment area around a restaurant or a retail location. And I want to actually understand the catchment area for this site. So in order to do so, I can select my catchment area or my drive time zone, and then I can use this selection to actually inspect other layers. I've created a small script, a small query that will actually run a SQL select statement against another table. Actually saved it as a script, and then I can run it from my SQL dropdown. So let's go to the table dropdown, and from my SQL dropdown, I have one this here called select but intersects the selection. I'm just going to run this one, and it's going to ask me, so what table do you actually want to select from using your current selection? Right. So in this case, I'm going to select my purchasing power data set. And now you can see that the selection has been extended because it's now selected all the small boundaries here that intersect in some way with my drive time zone. So let's have a look at this query that I just showed you. I can go from the drop down here again and edit my script. So that will open it up in my SQL window. Let's just enlarge this a bit as well. And you can see it's rather simple, the query here. It's just a single query, but there's a few tricks to it. The first trick is that this table here is not a fixed table. It's actually a variable. So from the drop down here, you can see that I have a variable called stab to query. And I can even edit it just to actually show you what this actually does. So I've defined my variable here, given it a name, and I selected a specific type. So here you can see the number of different types. And in this case, it's a type table. This means that MapInfo will ask the user to select a table from a list of tables. Given it a prompt, that's a small text you saw in the dialog, and a help text as well. The values down here can limit the tables you see in the list. And in this case, I've just limited to mappable tables because I need to have a table that has mappable features. So that's the variables. Let's just go back to the SQL window here. The other interesting part is the subselect. So that's the way you use your current selection to select from the other table. And the subselect is this part. So that's actually a select statement in itself that returns just one feature or one list of features. In this case, it just returns one feature because I make sure that I use the aggregate combine to aggregate the potential multiple objects that have been selected into one. That one feature is then returned by the subselect. And I'm now comparing the object in the table I selected here with that aggregated object here. And then I'll just select all the features that interfere with that feature. So I can actually use this extended query now to run the query again, because this is now again a selection. So let's just try to run this one again and see what happens. So what do you want to select from? I could actually select the same table again and say OK. You notice that the query now actually extends even further because I just used the input to query from the same table, and that means that the neighboring polygons to the already selected polygons, they will now also be selected. Finally, I want to say that the way I added it up to my SQL dropdown is that I marked it as a favorite using the star, and I gave it a name so that I can quickly find it, and then I make sure that I also save it into a file so that it's stored for the next session I run in MapInfo. So I hope this gave you some inputs on how you can actually use a simple query to work with your data and get quick access to this through the SQL dropdown.